And today we're going to talk about nootropic herbs, and we're going to create a tincture made with single tinctures. So we're going to do a blend and we're going to use our singles. So what are nootropic herbs? Nootropic herbs are a category or a classification of medicinal herbs that support cognitive health. And that means your brain. Generally speaking, they're very just good overall for the nervous system, but they do seem to have specific affinities for brain health. And today we're making a blend that is going to support memory and overall cognitive function. And I'm actually making this for a fellow who came in to visit with me the other day, and I'm actually going to make some for myself. I actually used to take some of these every single day, and then I stopped and I realized after talking with him that it's time to get back to it. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the herbs that are in this formula, and I'm going to be straining some off, so you're going to actually see me strain off a tincture or possibly two, and then we'll go ahead and get this ready for him. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to start with the star. Actually, all of these are stars of the show today, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and start with this combination. This is a tincture that I actually made back in 2017, and I actually ran it. I made a half gallon, and I have used quite a lot of it. We're down to a quart right now. But this is a combination of equal parts of gotu kola and rosemary. And you know, rosemary is the herb for memory. If you've ever heard, even Shakespeare talked about rosemary for memory. That's because it works. So rosemary is pretty phenomenal. It can improve long-term memory. It helps with overall cognitive function. It's anti-anxiety, especially if you're smelling it. So in terms of essential oil use, which we're not talking about here, but the scent of rosemary can calm and soothe. Also, rosemary has some compounds that make it quite important in some kinds of support herbal remedies, and that's all I'll say about that. Don't want to get in trouble, but it might help with apoptosis, which is a natural way that the body's cells regenerate. And you can do some more research on that. I'm not going to talk much more about that here because, maybe we'll even block out that word. Okay, rosemary is also neuroprotective, which means it protects the nervous system. It protects the brain. It protects the spinal cord. It just overall is a wonderful nootropic herb. So I really love rosemary. So also mixed with this blend is gotu kola. Gotu kola is another nootropic herb that is phenomenal, in my opinion, for supporting memory and brain health. So let's go ahead, and since this is a blend, we'll talk about both of these at the same time. So gotu kola has compounds that might actually help with behaviors that are caused by brain dysfunction. There was a 2012 study done on Alzheimer's patients that really showed some good results in that regard. Gotu kola definitely is a memory enhancer. So if you're a person who's a student, you might want to add a little bit of gotu kola to your daily regimen of herbs. And gotu kola definitely supports healthy nerve function as well, just like rosemary does. One study back in 2016 found that gotu kola was quite helpful for those who had just had a stroke and were regaining their full mental capacities. So gotu kola is another one. So we're going to go ahead. I'm just going to set these aside. I'll blend these in a moment. Let me go through the herbs first, and then we'll talk, because I might have to strain off this tincture. I'm going to have to strain off this tincture because I've got some floaties, and we don't want floaties in our little dropper bottles. So next up, we're going to go ahead and talk about bacopa. Bacopa monnieri is another very, very promising nootropic herb that can support the nervous system and the brain. So scientists have identified the triterpenoid saponins, and these are quite high in bacopa. There are other compounds as well, because as we know, God made the plants for us, and He put a lot of chemicals in these plants and they work together synergistically, and that's what most herbalists believe. Many scientists like to pull out what they call the active compounds, and I don't think that they realize that they're taking away the ability of the plant chemicals to work cooperatively and synergistically with each other. Anyway, that's a whole other talk. Let's dive back into bacopa for a moment. So it is a calming cognitive enhancer. It's not going to make you go to sleep or anything like that, but it definitely helps with focus. It helps with concentration. It's one of those kinds of nootropic herbs. If you're trying to learn new things, then bacopa is one you might want to start taking over a period of time, because it does help with memory acquisition and learning acquisition, especially verbal skills. So that's something just to be aware of too. There have been quite a few studies on bacopa at this point, and one study in particular showed significant improvements in the amount of learning that took place while taking bacopa, memory, as far as especially long-term memory, and also the rate of learning, so how quickly somebody learns something. So bacopa is definitely one to look into and do some research on if you're interested in supporting your cognitive health. Okay, so next up here, we've got sage. And I'm sorry, but I think sage belongs in almost every kind of cognitive support formula out there. Sage is amazing. Number one, it tastes really good. It's a relative of your rosemary. Rosemary, by the way, is Rosmarinus officinalis, but the taxonomists just decided to classify it as a sage. So now it's known as Salvia rosmarinus. And because of that, it is now a closer relative of actual garden sage, which is Salvia officinalis. And this is just the sage that you grow and put on your turkey. And it's wonderful for your memory. Not only does sage help improve memory, but it's high in antioxidants, which keeps us young, and it's super helpful for oral health and throat health. So I really love sage just as a little, it's kind of a supporting herb in this formula. All right, and finally we've got holy basil or tulsi. This is awesome. This is Ocimum tenuiflorum, and it's an Indian herb traditionally that's now grown all over the United States by people who want tulsi in their yards. But this is kind of a family household herb in India, and it's wonderful. It's very supportive of emotional health, and for people with depressive states, it's not a cure, but what it does do is it supports just a healthy state of mind. Studies have shown that tulsi can help you to reduce forgetfulness. So if you're a menopausal woman like I am, we all know that one of the things we face is forgetfulness, right? So tulsi can really be helpful with that. It can also help to reduce stress and just, again, support the emotional health, and I think it's kind of energizing. Other people think it's calming. So I think it tends to act differently on different people. But that's a little rundown of the herbs. Now let's go ahead and talk about creating a blend, because that's our next step here. So I've got a little beaker, and this beaker is a 100 milliliter beaker, and I'm going to be working with a 2-ounce dropper bottle. So in that regard, this is 60 milliliters. So I'm going to go ahead and use 2 parts of the gotu, kola, and rosemary blend, and I'm going to use 1 part of bacopa, 1 part of sage, and 1 part of holy basil. Actually, I might let's see, that's 20, 30, 40, that's 50. I think I'm going to go ahead and use 2 parts of the bacopa. A part in this case is going to be 10 milliliters of the tincture. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and add. When I get 60 of these, 60 mils in the blend, then I'm going to go ahead and pour it. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I've got here are several pipettes, and these are measured in different amounts of milliliters. This one goes up to 30 milliliters. So I'm going to go ahead and use one of these for each tincture so that they're not mixed. If I have to dip this back into the bottle or something, you don't want to mix your herbal tinctures. That's kind of the downfall of tincturing with simples, because now you've got to be very careful, more careful, I should say, about the tools that you use. Whereas if I were to just gather these dried herbs and put them in a bowl like I would an herbal tea, I could actually tincture the blend if I wanted to. But I have found that when you have a lot of simples, like single herbs in tincture form like this, it's much easier to blend and formulate for specific individuals. And I like that because that's kind of what I do. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get down to business here. And I'm going to set this aside for a second. Move all these so that you can see what I'm doing with my little beaker. And I'm going to go ahead and get 20 milliliters of my Rosemary gotu kola mixture. Alrighty, 20 milliliters of this, and I'm going to go ahead and pour these into my dropper bottle. I just sterilized these, and what I like to use to sterilize my dropper bottles for tinctures that you're going to be using orally and ingesting is your ethanol alcohol. So like high proof vodka or Everclear works really great. So there's 20 mils of rosemary and gotu kola. And next up, we're going to do 20 mils of bacopa mayeri. Again, I think I'm going to have to strain this because I've got floaties. Let me grab a pipette here. Okay, if I stick this down far enough, then I don't have to worry about the the floaties. I can get my 20 mils. I should be able to get my 20 mils just fine, right in the center of that. And honestly, you know what? There's nothing wrong with floaties. If I were making this for myself, I wouldn't care as long as the little herbal bits can get into the dropper. But again, I'm making this for somebody, so I want it to have really good clarity. This is the nice thing about formulating for individuals. Like I know some herbalists, they formulate for the masses. You know, they've got their formulations and they're just supposed to work on everybody. And honestly, they might. You know, there's a broad range of use of individuals. But the powerful thing about formulating this way is that I have spoken with this man and I know what he needs, and I got to, you know, take a look at his constitution, and so I'm kind of blending for him, and it's kind of nice to be able to do that. All right, so this is 20 milliliters of the bacopa mayeri. I've got 40 mils in there, and it's about just under halfway full so far. So I'm going to get my lid back on there. All right, set that pipette aside, grab another pipette. I've got my holy basil. We're going to do 10 mils of holy basil. This holy basil smells so good. I wish you could smell it. It's just beautiful. I love it. Okay, so next up is our sage, and we're going to go ahead and dip this out. This is also one that I still have the herbs sitting in. Oops, let me go ahead and measure that. Okay. I may have to strain this one out. It's kind of giving me some troubles. Okay, let's go ahead and measure out my 10 mils. It just smells so good. You know, the nice thing about the aromatic herbs is the aromatics, the volatile oils, which are the essential oils, they actually extract in alcohol pretty well. So you are getting traces of essential oil when you combine them like this in a tincture form. And there we go. We have a couple of ounces of beautiful, beautiful brain-boosting herbal tinctures all together that you can take every day as a tonic for your head. I hope you enjoyed this quick video. If you're interested in learning more about herbalism, I would love for you to join our school, the Healing Harvest Homestead School of Botanical Arts and Sciences. One of our courses that people really enjoy is our Ditch the Drugstore course. If you're brand new to herbalism, this is a nice basic family herbalist course, and there is an option to go ahead and get more information and get a family herbalist certification if you want to do that too. But I teach people how to create a customized home apothecary. A moment ago, I just spoke with you about the fact that, you know, you can go to the store and buy herbal blends and formulas that are just mass marketed for the average person or just the guy. But really, that's not really true herbalism, because you're not individualizing for a specific person. And when you can do that, especially when it comes to your family members and your community members who you might want to work with someday, it's so helpful, because that's when you're going to get some really, really big defining successes with health. All right, so I just wanted to mention that Ditch the Drugstore. This is my one of my larger courses, and it's a lot of fun. We open it up for open rounds throughout the year 3 to 4 times, but you're welcome to start at any time and get that apothecary going. And then during the open rounds, that's when I work with people, and we have our meetings and we have questions. And by the way, we do have live or replays of all of the questions from all of the past groups that have gone through, and those are searchable. So literally any question you have could be answered. That's all I'm going to say about that. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with somebody. If you need a nootropic herbal blend for brain health, this is a good one to start with. Do some more research on these herbs. Make sure there's no contraindications for you if you're working for yourself or somebody else. And that's it. I'm Heidi Villegas with Healing Harvest Homestead, and I'm so glad that you're here.